Hello and welcome back to Big Les's League and all rugby league experience. I'm your host, Big Les. We have the one and only rugby league guru. Some people call him the kangaroo. I've been hearing kangaroo going around. I think the name's sort of stuck now. How are you, mate?
I'm good, Leslie. How are you, mate?
Not too bad. I hard day's work at year 11, but I'm sure it's not as hard as the real world. But yeah.
I'm glad you said that because I was about to pull you up on it.
It's tough gig out there in the big world, but I'm trying to cherish as much as I can from school, even though it's not the best thing in the world. I'll be right though. I'll be right.
Have you been training?
Oh, of course I have. I've been in the gym every day, hitting the tin. It's been good. What we're going to do today is we're going to do a 1 to 13. We're doing a dream team draft. I thought this would be a little fun little concept. We did this with a True Blue Sporting podcast and it seemed to get a good sort of feed. So we're going to do it here with the one and only Guru. So let's get started. Since you are the guest, I'll let you go first. Who do you have as your fullback?
How kind of you, mate. Fullback. I'm tossing up between three. I was thinking Darren Lockyer, probably four actually. Lockyer, Minicello, Slater, and Trom Toroyevich. Could throw Teddy in there as well. I think that I'll take the proven winner. I'll take Billy Slater at fullback, mate. Who are you going to take there?
Well, you took Billy Slater, and there's a lot of guys to pick from as well. I found that out the other week. There's a lot of guys I can chuck in there. You mentioned Darren Lockyer, Minicello. I am going to go ahead and I am going to take Darren Lockyer. I think that's a really good choice there. We're picking a dream team. Don't want to keep it too recent. Want to get a few of the older experienced heads in there. So Darren Lockyer for me. I think he was just such an influential player in the game. Really talented footballer. Got to chuck him in there.
You've rattled me a little bit calling him a really old head just quietly.
Well, look, I am of the 2005 sort of generation. I don't know what that is. If that's I think that's Gen Z. So
you born in 2005?
2005.
Jesus Christ! Good
Grand
God.
final of Benji Marshall. I know it's
7 in 2005. So that's a bit rattling.
Yeah. Anyway, we'll go on to the wing spot. Who have you got for your first wing spot?
You go first for this one, mate. We'll take turns going first, so you can have your first. Yeah.
How kind of you. We're taking turns. The Marcelin gentleman has been taken on here by the other gentleman in the room, the kangaroo. I don't know who I'm going to go for this one, to be honest. There's a lot of guys I can pick, but I'm going to go for a South Sydney legend in Nathan Merritt. I think that he was just such an awesome player. Just watching highlights of him, he was just sensational for South Sydney. So got to chuck him in there. What about you?
I'm going to go with Anthony Minicello. Played a lot of wing at the start of his career. So I'm going to go with Anthony Minicello there from the Chooks. Transitioned to fullback in, I think it was 2003. Before that, played a lot of wing, an absolute freak mini. So, I'll take Minicello there. I'll go first for the next centre then.
Cool.
I might take one of your boys here just quietly. I think I'll take Greg Inglis as my centre.
Yep. Oh, I think I saw that one coming. I know if I didn't get him, that you were going to get him eventually. So I thought
you were going to put him on the wing, to be honest with you. I thought you were going to get in first.
Oh, well, he's too valuable to put on the wing. I was going to chuck him in the centres as well. But, great pick there. For me, for centre, I'm going to go a bit more current. With a bit of an unexpected one. I know I'm a South supporter, but I'm going to go with a Chook. I'm going to go with Joseph Manu. I think that last year was probably one of his highlights of his career. He was just so influential for that Roosters side and such a talented footballer. You could put him anywhere on the park and he just gets the job done. So Joseph Manu, I'm going to chuck him in there.
Good shout there. My other centre, I'm going to go, as you might say, a bit old school. I'm going to go with Jamie Lyon, mate. Absolute weapon through the late 2000s, early 2000s as well, playing for Parramatta. But when he arrived at Manly, just an incredible player. Two very different centres, but, they'd be lethal. My other wing spots, I'm going to go for I'm tossing up two guys. I'm going to go with Israel Folau. On the wing there, Israel Folau came through with the Melbourne Storm, was amazing when he first kicked off his career and then went to Brisbane and absolutely brained it there as well. I think we forget how good Israel Folau was because he left and went to AFL first and now is in Union, of course, but Israel Folau, an absolute freak.
God, I'd love to see him back in the NRL. He would honestly he'd carve up in today's competition with the way the game's changed. He'd be unreal. For my other center spot, I am going to go for.
I jumped ahead of you there. Sorry, mate.
Jumped the gun a bit. I was like, you're going to his next wing spot, and I was like, oh shit. But for my other center spot, I'm going to go for, again, a bit more current. I'm the 2005 baby, so obviously I'm going to go for some more current type players. I'm going to go for Latrell Mitchell. I think that center's his go. Center's his spot for me. I know he's a great fullback, but he's just a footballer, so he'd go well anywhere in the back line, to be honest. So I'm going to go ahead and chuck him in my other center. For my other winger, it's a tough one. It is a real tough one. I'm actually going to go ahead and go for a bit. I wouldn't call this crazy, but I'm going to chuck James Tedesco in there mainly because I didn't get him at fullback. I don't know how he'd really go at wing, to be honest, but I'm sure he'd carve up. He's a great fullback for the Roosters, and he was just such a key part of that side last year. Great captain, and yeah, I had to have him in my side somewhere.
I think you'd do well wherever you put him, Teddy, mate. I'm a bit. I thought you'd go Tom Trbojevic in there somewhere.
Well, you never know. He could. No, well, he's not going to fit anywhere else in this side, to be honest. But yeah, I had to go for James Tedesco. I'd actually take James Tedesco over Tom, to be honest. And I know that's a bit of a crazy call, but just the leadership of Tedesco, and he sort of slows the game down a bit. It's a weird thing to say, but he sort of does. Honestly, you could chuck him at 6 if you really wanted to, and he'd go well there. But I'm going to go ahead and chuck him on the wing here because I've got a pretty clear idea of who I'm chucking at 6.
Yeah, I don't think it's a crazy call at all, mate. Okay, it's yours 5'8", isn't it? Because I went the double up. Go, pick your 6. Who have you got?
For my 6, I am going to go for, again, someone a bit current, but as a South Sydney supporter, he's got to go on my side. I think you already know who I'm going to go for here. I'm going to go for Cody Walker. He is unbelievable. I think it was Wayne Bennett. He said that if he was picking an all-time side of players his coach, that Cody Walker was in there. And for him to say that about Cody Walker, then you watch him last season, the season before that as well, he just tore up. He literally tore up, and he was just a different animal, different beast in 2021. And he was a pivotal reason that they got into that grand final. And I think he's going to be really good here. People say that he's not going to be as good without Adam Reynolds. I don't believe a word of that. I reckon he's going to be just as good, if not better.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting season for Cody, but yeah, no doubt one of the most instinctive players we've ever seen. Absolute freak. Mate, you've left me wide open to take probably my favourite player ever. I'm going to take Brad Fittler at 6. Freddie picks himself. Proven winner. A few premierships, heap of grand finals. Best centre, 5'8", lock on the field just about every time he walked on it. So Freddie for me is an easy one at 6 and 7. Yeah, an easy one for me here too. I'm going to take Joey. I'm going to pair up Joey and Freddie, and they'd be the best on the field and the best off the field, just quietly.
Yeah, well, I was thinking about Andrew Johns for sure. It was either Andrew or Cleary for me. But since you've taken Andrew, I'm going to have to go with Nathan Cleary. And wow, last year for him was just unreal. He was doing everything. Whether it was defense, I think he was like 98.9 tackle efficiency or something along those lines. And for a halfback, that is just unheard of. And then not even just looking at his defense, like people don't really look at his defense when they look at Nathan Cleary. They look at his attack, and it's mainly because he's just got such a great kicking game, and he really suits the modern game. I think Nathan Cleary, with a bit of an old school sort of touch, he still suits that modern game for me. So Nathan Cleary, he is my 7.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned his defense there, because he really is right up there with Freddie and Joey as far as best defensive halves ever, and it's something that people don't talk enough about. Forward pack, do you want to kick us off?
I will. I am going to go for, again, more current because I am the young un in this room. I'm the young guy. So I'm going to go for Payne Haas. And the reason I'm going to go for Payne Haas is because his attacking stats, the hardworking index stats he pulled, he was pretty much at the top of the list every single week. And everyone knows why. He was just sensational for that Broncos side, and he really, really took them far. I know they didn't get anywhere near the finals last year, but it wasn't because of his efforts at all. He was just amazing. And it's unheard of for a front rower to do the things he's doing. He's got a bit of pace. He's a big boy, a lot of strength. Great player, Payne Haas.
Mate, as much as you said you took him because you're the young guy, I've got to be honest with you. I think I probably would have taken him as one of my two spots, to be honest with you. He's just got something else about him, Payne Haas. But you've got him. I think it's a very good pick. I'm going to go as my first front rower. I'm going to go with Shane Webke from the Brisbane Broncos, mate. Just the prototype forward when I was growing up, prototype front rower, I think arguably the toughest guy to ever play rugby league. So Shane Webke I'll take there. Now, you had first choice then. I've got first choice now for hooker. Do you want to make it interesting and we take Cameron Smith out of it?
I'm happy to do that if you are.
I mean, yeah, let's make it interesting, yeah, because, I mean, obviously he is well and truly above everyone else. So let's take Cam Smith out of it, see how we go. I will take Danny Badiris. I've got Joey at 7, so I'll take Bedsy at hooker. Very underrated, was very unlucky that, Cameron Smith came straight after him. It's funny with Bedsy, I think it was the 2003 Kangaroo Tour. He got married, so he didn't go, and Cameron Smith went, and he never got his Kangaroos jumper back again, which is unfortunate. Cameron Smith never missed another game, essentially. So crazy how that sort of shit can happen in rugby league to one of the best ever. Who's your 9, mate?
Well, I think Danny Badiris was my second pick too after Cameron Smith. And it's a hard choice. And I could go for so many current guys because the dummy half position has really changed over the years, and pretty much every dummy half has got a bit of something about them at the moment in this competition. You look at guys like Damien Cook, who he plays a lot like early Granville as well, just with that speed, but he's just a different beast, and we know why he gets picked for those Origin games. So you know what? I'm actually going to go for Damien Cook. I just think that speed would be so good in a side like this with Nathan Cleary, Cody Walker, Payne Haas, guys like that. The speed out of dummy half, it's just going to set those guys up for meaties.
No, good choice. I like that. All right, your front rower. Who's going to be your next guy? Payne Haas and?
Payne Haas and. Now, there's a few guys here that I've got down, and I honestly am in shambles here. I'm not sure who I'm going to pick, but there is one guy I've got in mind. He was a South Sydney Rabbitohs freak. He only recently just came out of the side, but he played a lot of lock forward, played a bit in the second row towards the end of his career. I'm going to go for Sam Burgess. He was, again, a different beast. He had so much strength. Everyone was afraid of him. If his name was in the opposite team list of who you were versing, you honestly shit your pants because that's just the effect that guy had on you. He was an absolute weapon. And yeah, Sam Burgess, I couldn't leave him out of the side either.
Very good pick there, mate. I think if you wouldn't have picked him there, I would have considered him. And if not, I would have taken him in the back row or 13 somewhere. So very hard to leave Sam Burgess out of any side. My other front row, I've gone with Shane Webke as my first one. My second one, I'm just going to take the lunatic himself, Adrian Morley. Obviously played for the Roosters for a very long time. I was surprised. I do a fair whack of dream teams with current and former players, and sort of surprises me how often he comes up, and you talk to some of the toughest guys to ever play our game and they're all fucking scared shitless of Morley. They just don't want a piece of him. So for front rowers, that's the sort of guy that I want. So I'll go Webke and Adrian Morley in my front row. Could you imagine those four getting together?
Oh,
good God.
It'd be a nightmare. It'd be one of the best games we've ever seen. Just the fact that forward matchup, even if they were all on the same team, you wouldn't want to verse them any day of the week, to be honest. Yeah, you'd just get smashed.
Yeah.
Back rower spot. Would you like to take the reins on this one to go first?
Yeah, sure. I'll go first on this one. I'm going to go, so many guys to choose from here. I'm going to go as my first one. I'm going to take a guy with a little bit of upside. I think he can just do it all, and we probably didn't see him at his absolute peak here. I'm going to take Sonny Bill Williams as my first second rower. Can just do it all. I would argue that when he was at the absolute peak of his game, he was probably playing rugby union. He came back to league for 2 years, and it took him a few games to find his feet, but good God, it was hard to argue after that he wasn't the best forward in our game as soon as he came back. So Sonny Bill Williams for me, mate. Who's your first back rower?
Well, I'll tell you what, Sonny Bill was definitely one I was considering, but I'm going to sort of take a different approach to what I've been taking lately. I'm going to go for a bit of an older guy, and you probably won't expect this one from me, but I'm going to go for Gordon Talis. He was unreal in his career. Just watching the highlights of him, didn't really get to see much of his career as, I was quite young then. But Gordon Talis, watching the highlights of him, the things that he did, I've picked him in most of my dream teams that I've done, and I'm going to pick him again because he's just that type of player.
No, very good choice, mate. Very, very good choice. All right, you're up again here for your other second rower. You got first dibs.
First dibs here for my other back rower. I am going to go for a bit of a wild card here. Plays lock forward for South Sydney. I'm going to go for Cameron Murray. He's proven that he can play back row, especially in Origin, where he just killed it and probably had one of the best Origin series we've seen from him last season. I know that he set up that wonderful try for James Tedesco, in that 2019 season. He was unreal then as well. But just the 2021 Origin season, he really was a different beast. And the work he was getting through, the little things he was doing. And then that season as well, he really impressed me. He was one of the guys that I was really just enjoyed watching week in, week out.
Very good shout. I was confident to put money on he was going to be your 13, so I'll be interested to see where you go with your next pick just quietly. But my next second rower, I think in the modern game, you want your second rowers to have a bit of upside. You want them to have tackle breaks in them. You want them to have an offload. You want them to have a bit of ball playing. And a guy that you probably wouldn't have seen too much of because he pretty much left our game before you were born, but he was an absolute freak. Ali Lauatiti from the New Zealand Warriors. He went over to England. I think he played about 300 games over there. If he would have played 300 games here, I think he'd have a fair argument as possibly the best forward we've ever seen. So Ali Lauatiti, and if any of your listeners who are a little bit younger than myself don't know who I'm talking about, type his name into YouTube and go and have a look at him because an absolute freak there, Ali.
I'm just going to have to trust you on that one.
Have you seen him, Les?
I haven't seen him. I'm too young. I was born after it.
When we're done with this, you jump on YouTube, you go and have a look at Ali Lauatiti. Unbelievable player.
Yeah, will do for sure. 13. I'm gonna let you jump the gun here and go first. Who is your 13?
My 13. What am I going to go for here? I'm going to go for a more. Actually, no, I'm not. I'm going to go for Glenn Stewart from the Manly Seagulls, mate. Gifty. A very good player in his day, which wasn't that long ago, but the game has changed a lot since he retired, and I think Glenn Stewart would be more suited to the game today than when he actually played himself. So very good player, Gifty. 2011 Clive Churchill medalist, put in a kick from his own half in that grand final, which I haven't seen since. I didn't see before that. I don't think we'll see it again realistically. Very, very special player, Glenn Stewart. So he'll be my 13, mate.
Yeah, for sure. From what I've heard from the highlights I've seen, he was unreal for Manly. He had a stint at St. George, I'm pretty sure, as well, and he was great there.
No, he actually finished with you guys at South Sydney.
Oh, I did too. Yes, it was. It was at South. I'm pretty sure.
Very, very strange. Yeah.
Yeah. He was. That's right. I'm probably thinking of someone else, but yeah, Glenn Stewart did finish with South Sydney. I do remember now. Great player, Glenn Stewart. I'm a younger guy, going to go for someone current, and you probably wouldn't expect this one again from me either. But the past 2 years, he had a huge impact on that Roosters side for me. A brawny boy he is. Victor Radley. He really impresses me, and I reckon if there's anyone that's going to make a debut for Origin, it's going to be Victor Radley, and I think he's going to thoroughly deserve it. If he keeps those suspensions down this year, he's just going to be a different beast. And if Roosters get anywhere close to finals, he's just definitely going to be a main factor of that for me.
Good call, Les. I actually almost went to say Victor, and then Glenn Stewart came to me. So I really like that one there, mate.
I thought you were a Bradley Clyde man. That's what I thought you were sort of hesitating on.
Yeah, 2000 onwards, though, Clyde sort of did his best footy in the 90s. If you put it through to the 1990s, I would take Clyde in a heartbeat. Don't worry about that.
Well, it's still a good team nevertheless. Do you want to read yours out for the people listening?
So at fullback, I've got Billy the Kid Slater. On the wing, the Mountain Goat, Anthony Minicello, partnered with Israel Folau. In the centres, I got GI and Jamie Lyon. The halves, the dynamic duo, Brad Fittler and Joey Johns. Up front, Shane Webke and Adrian Morley with Danny Badiris at 9. My second row, 2 Kiwi greats, Sonny Bill Williams and Ali Lawatiti. And then at 13, the Manly Seagulls legend himself, Glenn Stewart. How does your side line up?
My side lines up with Darren Lockyer at fullback, Nathan Merritt and James Tedesco on the wings. Bit of a wild card there for Tedesco on the wings. I've got Joseph Manu and Latrell Mitchell in the centres, Cody Walker and Nathan Cleary in the halves, Payne Haas and Sam Burgess in the front row, Damien Cook at hooker, Gordon Talis and Cameron Murray in the back row, Victor Radley at lock. Two awesome sides.
Watching the Roosters in South, are you?
I'm going to be definitely watching and tuning into that one. It's going to be a rough game. It's going to be hard to watch. I want to say I'm confident, but I wouldn't be telling too much of the truth there. It's going to be an interesting game to see the Roosters as well. And honestly, we've got such a hard first few games. South Sydney, Brisbane, Roosters, Melbourne. I think it's then Penrith as well. Our first 5 games is just absolute havoc. So if we get through those and then have a decent season, I reckon we can just make the top 8, but it will be very interesting. But 2 great sides here. And thanks for hopping on, Guru. It was an absolute pleasure.
No, thank you for having me on, mate. I look forward to seeing you over the next few weeks, getting down at footy training and whatnot. We're not too far away, mate. And well done on everything you've done on your page. You're doing incredibly well, mate. It's all pretty hectic, isn't it?
It is quite hectic, especially going into year 11, ripping and tearing there, coming home and ripping and tearing on the podcast. It's a whole different beast. But I'm getting through it. I'm surviving because that's just what Big Les does. But thanks again for coming on. And yeah, make sure you guys go and listen to this on all of the podcasting platforms. Make sure you give the Rugby League Guru a follow on Instagram at the Rugby League Guru, and on all podcasting platforms, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. Anything going on for you, Guru?
Not a heap, mate. Just essentially waiting for the season to come around. Heap of trials this weekend. We've just launched a new Supercoach show on a Tuesday. That'll be coming out, maybe Wednesday, one of those days. So, yeah, if you're a Supercoach fan, come over and have a listen to that too, or watch it on YouTube. It's going to be a good time over the next few months.
I'll be definitely tuning in. I'm more of a fantasy guy, but I'll definitely be tuning in to listen to that one. Thanks for hopping on, Nath.
Thanks, brother. Appreciate it. I'll talk to you soon.
Talk to you soon.